We're going to just go over some things today on nutrition and see like where you're at with it. Okay, so how many people here know like what carbohydrates are? What are carbohydrates? What's that? What? No? What? That's sugar? Okay, so bread, pasta. Okay. Alright. What are proteins? Do you know what protein is?
Meats, peanut butter, and all that crap.
No. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Did everybody here eat breakfast today? Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Alright, so there's only a few people here today that play sports. Is there anybody else? There's only you. You guys play sports? Okay. What do you eat before you play? Do you eat anything different? Or you just pasta? Okay. When you look at the back of like a box of cereal or something, right? Or see like your bread. You know what this food triangle is in the back of the box? Yeah? Okay, well, I asked before about carbohydrates, proteins, and then we have fat. Right, so down here, let me show you carbohydrates. Right here's your protein, and over here's your fat. Alright? So what they say is your day should look like a food triangle. Right, with all the different types of foods. Alright, you hear a lot about like the 4 food groups and all the different food groups and things like that. Those groups basically would come under carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Alright, so we gave some examples of what these are. When she said the carbohydrates, carbs are going to give you two types of carbs. And like you said, they're like sugary, they get in your system. So you have like sugars, which are simple carbs. And you have complex carbs, which are more like bread and pasta. Alright, so your carbohydrates, you have potatoes, pasta, rice, bread, cereal. Right? And then the simple carbs, which would be like your fruits and vegetables and all your sugary type of stuff. Right? What this does, it helps you give you your energy. Alright, then you have your protein foods. Which you said milk before. Milk, dairy products, fish, eggs. Right, you got beef, chicken, turkey. Alright, which are going to give you all your different proteins. Alright, then, what is fat? What's fat? Where do you get that? What's that? Okay, well, there's two different types of fats. You have two different types of fats. So you have your saturated fat, and you have unsaturated fat. Right? So if you have like olive oil, it's a high fat. Right? So you have oil, you have butter, and like mayonnaise, peanut butter, stuff like that. Peanuts have a lot of fat in them. Alright? Who tries not to eat fat? Anybody try not to eat fat? You do? Okay. So, basically, when we look back at the food triangle, part of your day, you want to get a certain percentage of fat in your diet. Because fat is also healthy for like your hair and your nails. If you like, you want nice nails, eat a lot, make sure you eat some oil. Alright? So, did everybody here eat breakfast today, or who didn't eat breakfast? Who does? Is that like a regular thing and you miss it? Right? Does everybody here eat lunch? What do you eat for lunch? Do you eat what they give you here at school, or you bring your own thing? Right? And so, what would your average day be like? Would you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Yeah? No? No? Okay. Alright, so what happens when somebody only eats like once a day? You get a lot of people here only eat once a day. Okay. Well, what did you say you have for breakfast before? Nothing? Yeah, you ate breakfast, alright? You had oatmeal and a bagel. Okay? Now, those are both going to go on a carbohydrate. Right? So in your breakfast, you didn't eat any protein. Right? You just ate some carbs. Alright, now, what are you going to eat for lunch? You don't know yet? You haven't decided, right? Alright. How do you normally eat, like, throughout the day? Would you just, like, eat as you're hungry? Do you eat? Eat 3 meals? Alright, so your first meal is your breakfast. What time is your breakfast? This is before school, right? Around, what, 6:30? Yeah. 6:30? So you had some oatmeal, right? Yeah. And you had a bagel. Did you have anything to drink? Orange juice? Oh. No, I didn't. Nothing to drink. Okay. Now, what time's your lunch here? Around 12?
Well, I don't have lunch. I have my own lab.
What time are you going to eat? What time are you going to eat?
I'm not really sure.
You're not sure? 11? You're not sure what you're going to have, right? What do you think you're going to have? What did you have yesterday?
I had a sandwich.
Sandwich? What type of sandwich was it?
Sandwich and cheese.
Ham and cheese? What type of bread was it on? White bread? Roll?
No, it was like whole wheat bread.
Whole wheat bread? Yeah, mustard or mayonnaise? Do you have anything to drink?
I had some iced tea.
You had iced tea?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that it?
No, I had an apple.
You had an apple.
Yeah. And I had some cookies.
Cookies?
And then I had 2 hash browns from the school.
Same time? Okay. Those square hash browns?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I had breakfast.
Okay. Now, what do you have after that? Do you have a snack before dinner? When you go home from here, do you eat anything?
Well, I had a Friday night from school till 6, so I didn't have time to eat.
Okay. And then what do you have when you got home? What was for dinner?
I had a turkey burger.
Turkey burger? What was that, about 7? 6:30?
About 7.
7 o'clock? So you had turkey, now what? A bun?
Yeah, it was like ground turkey.
What else was on it? Less tomato?
I didn't have enough to know.
Alright. What'd you put on there? Ketchup? Alright, and then what'd you have with that? Anything to drink, soda, or anything?
I had milk.
No? Anything else after that? Broccoli? This was made by your parents, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, so that's it. You have a snack after that? Anything to put bed?
I had a bowl of ice cream.
So like whether or not you eat breakfast in the morning or you skip it, or you eat lunch, you know, if you think about really what you're eating each day, you know, a lot of people don't. A lot of people just kind of eat as they go. They're on the run. They don't prepare meals. They don't know what they're going to have for their next meal and what it's going to look like. Okay? So as we look at his breakfast meal, you see that it's just carbohydrates. All right? And then you have ham and cheese, which are proteins. All right? You have the wheat bread, which is a carbohydrate. Iced tea, which you know is probably the sugar in the iced tea. You have an apple, carbohydrate. Cookies, mostly carbohydrate, but they have sugar and fat, you know. The hash browns, which are carbohydrate, is cooked in oil, so it's high fat. Then you had turkey, which is protein. Then you had a bun or a roll, whatever it was on, carbohydrate. And then the milk, which is a little bit of protein, there's some carbs in there too. Then you had a fibrous carb, which is broccoli, all your green vegetables. And then at night you had ice cream, which is, you know, if you look at the breakdown of what it is, everything here has a certain amount of calories, some carbohydrates, protein, fat, which make up what that food is. All right, so a lot of people just think about their food, about, you know, whether it's a good food or bad food, you know, whether it's something they should eat or shouldn't eat. They eat when they're hungry, so if there's something there that looks good, then they'll have that. All right, but if you start looking at your day out of what the calories are, and the carbs, protein, and fat in each thing, it all adds up. So one day you might add it up, and it'll come out to like 1,500 calories. And the next day you might add it up, and it'll come out to like 2,000. And it depends on how consistent you are with how you eat. All right, so he's taking in a certain amount of calories, but he's also putting out a certain amount of calories. All right, now, by sitting here in this chair, he's burning a certain amount of calories just to do that. All right, as he sleeps at night, he burns a certain amount of calories. That's called your basal metabolic rate. It's before you do anything at all. So it's your BMR. All right, so he has a certain amount of weight that he weighs. All right, so what do you weigh? 130. How tall are you?
5'11".
Okay. All right, so now his weight is made up of two things. See, a lot of people will jump on the scale and they'll say, well, I shouldn't weigh what I weigh, or I should gain weight, or I should lose weight, and a lot of people don't just feel that whatever they weigh, they should weigh. All right, because for some reason they think it should be something else. All right. Well, what you want to start doing is, you know, just realizing that your weight comes from a few different things. All right. His bones weigh a certain amount of weight. His skin weighs weight. You know, it's his lean body mass. His muscle weighs weight. All right, it weighs something. Also, the amount of fat pounds that he has weighs a certain amount of weight. So you have your lean mass pounds. And then you have your fat pounds. All right, so a lot of people, you know, when you're thinking, well, how tall you are and how much you should weigh and all these things, you know, you want to realize, well, you know, you can make it into certain other ways. You can make adjustments in that so that you weigh something else. Right? If you want to weigh more, you can just eat more. You know, but then a lot of people think, well, if I want to weigh less, I'll just eat less. Right? Well, that's going to work for you. If you get on the scale one day and you weigh a certain weight, you don't want to weigh less, you can eat less and you can weigh less. But if you want to change the way your body looks, you want to realize that you may not have to weigh less, you may just have to weigh less fat. All right, so it's about changing your body composition. All right, this is the composition that it is. If you want to change that, if you want to gain weight, you probably want to gain muscle. All right, so when you use the word weight, you can be more specific with it. And you can say, okay, well, I want to gain so many pounds of muscle. All right, and if you play a certain sport, you may want more endurance. certain amount of weight, plays lacrosse, right? All right, so now we saw your average day. This is how you eat on an average, right? So pretty much when we look at how he was eating before, this is your average day. So he has 3 meals and a snack at night. You're pulling something. All right, and when you pull back like this, that's also the back muscles working. All right. Yeah. So then you want to look at those two. You know, the majority of exercises that are all set up this way are working those back muscles. Now, when you work your legs, right? You're pushing out. You can do squats. You can do the leg press. There's a lot of different leg machines. People do lunges, right? So you kind of go like this. You'd have these bars in the back, your dumbbells kicking in. You kind of go down and push back up. That's working both of your legs in different areas. Okay? So, yeah.
I use Tony rings that I work out. Have you heard of Tony rings?
Yeah.
I work out his things.
So it pulls
Those Tony things.
bars, rubber bands.
Yeah, and I do all that stuff that you just mentioned. Do all that stuff, especially with shoulder.
With rubber bands instead of
Yeah.
weights. Okay. Yeah, you can do them like that. Even like a push-up, you're not really using, the only resistance you're using is the weight of your body. You can also do rubber band stuff, go out to the side, you can step on the band, you can come up, that's working your shoulder. So it's all different things. You've got your Nautilus machines. Nautilus is just a name, all right? A lot of people will go through a gym and they'll look at the equipment with the machines on it, with the pins, and all of a sudden they just call them Nautilus. Well, Nautilus was designed by a guy named Arthur Jones, and he just designed these machines, and he kind of set them up in a row, and he opened up all these Nautilus centers, and he just named the equipment Nautilus. But there's a lot of other brands out there. It's like your car. If you have a Buick, one brand is Buick, and then you have all these other brands out there. All right, so there's a lot of different types of machines that are kind of similar to those, and basically, all they're doing is different movements, all right? So it's not like you think, a lot of people think Nautilus, and they think, well, if you do Nautilus, you get toned. Well, the whole thing of getting toned is really dropping your body fat and gaining some muscle. All right, so you can basically do anything. So the free weight stuff is what we're going to show you today. It's all the same movements. All right, so if you're to do like a Nautilus machine out like this one day, you work out, kind of wouldn't need to do flat benches because you already did this, right? So you'd probably do like inclines or dumbbell flies, all right? So you probably like pick a different movement for each body part that you're going to work, all right? And then people design their workouts different ways. Like you might do your whole body 3 days a week. You might do 2 body parts, what you want to do. Yeah. So like how many reps you're going to do with a certain amount of weight. Whether you're going to do 12 push-ups or 12 bench presses or, of everything. So, how much weight you're going to use to do that set. So a lot of people go into a gym or something, they get out a machine. And they get out a machine and they think, well, I should stop at 12. Well, the reason why you stop at 12 is because you can't do 13. All right, so, a lot of people think, well, 12 is like this magic number. If you stop there, you get toned. Or it could be 15, and then that makes you more toner. If you do 20, then you're like really toned. But really, it has nothing to do with that. You want to push your muscles to a certain fatigue, all right, to make them have to adapt. Like how your muscles grow, right? When you go in the gym and you're doing flat bench, your chest is sore the next day.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, so what you're doing is you're pushing your muscles so that you're making them sore, you're breaking them up, you're breaking them down. Now, as they rebuild, all right, it's going to take proper nutrition, right? Proper only meaning that you want your muscles to get bigger, so you got to eat for that, all right? And then it's also going to take rest. So, a lot of people say, well, only work out every other day, or only work out 3 days a week, or only do this, or only do that. It really depends on what you want to do, like what your goal is, what you're trying to get done, all right? So, if you know that the muscles are going to repair with the way you eat and how much time you give a break in between, you want to give them enough breaks that they fully repair before you work them again. All right, so like Okay, so how you're going to design your workout is going to basically depend on what your goal is. And then you want to look at all the different movements you can do, and you want to pick out exercises that you like. Okay, so what would you do for chest if you were working chest? Do flat benches, right? Do flat bench? You do incline bench? Press? Not too much? Okay. Right. Then you do like, you do flies, right? Yeah, you do flies, okay. Alright, so, you know, you're working your chest with flat bench. Okay, so if you're doing chest, you're going to do flat benches, it will be 1 thing hour worth of your chest. It doesn't just have to be the flat bench, it's you know, the straight out movement that you're doing when you do that. Alright, then you do incline work for your upper chest if you want to develop your upper chest. Would be incline. And then there's also other movements in there which would be like, you know, this way, like a fly. So no matter what you're doing, if you're over there and you're on one of the Nautilus machines and you're on the Tech Deck 1 and you're like this, you're like that.
Yeah.
You know, you can do that. Then you can also come over here and take 2 dumbbells in your hand and you go like this, lying down. Alright? So the way the muscles adapt is how much stress you're putting on. So if he's doing flies every week and he's going up in the weight, say he's doing 10. He stops at 10 every week, and every week he tries to put on 5 more pounds onto those dumbbells. Well, every week that he's doing that, the muscles get pushed where they haven't been before, and they have to adapt and get a little bit bigger. All right? They'll get bigger as long as he's also eating, you know, and giving his body enough rest so that the muscles can repair and get a little bit bigger and stronger also in that amount of time. All right? So if you do flat bench, and you're doing the flat bench and you're going up on your weights every week, each week you're pushing your body a little bit more. Like if he did a flat bench and he had these 2 45-pound plates on here, and he did this thing, and he did it every single week for 10 times, and he never went up, his muscles wouldn't have to get any bigger because they can handle this weight. But if he wanted his chest muscles to get bigger, he'd have to like put a 10-pound on here 1 week and try that. Somebody might help him from behind so that they spot you, so that you can push yourself to get an extra one, like a forced rep. And by pushing the muscles that way, they have to adapt and they have to grow. They have to get stronger. All right. If he's training for endurance, like say like a sport or something, he might want just to be quicker with that instead of having a really develop muscle. So he might just go for different reps. So he might, you know, train to do, you know, stay with that same weight, but go, instead of doing 10, he does 15. Then next week he does 20. Well, he's trying to train the muscle a little different. You know? Yeah, like more endurance, more quickness to that, you know. Yeah. Where, you know, he's training to go up each time. It's like, you know, if a sprinter's going to sprint and he's timing himself, he's going to try to beat the amount of time, but he's not going to try to go further, all right, because that's a different type of training, all right? A sprinter wouldn't go from like this wall to that wall, and then, you know, the following week try to go, you know, twice as far. They would just try to beat the time in that certain amount of space that they're going to do, okay? So now if you're working your back, you're going to do pull down movements, all right? Now each one of these movements has like different fancy names and stuff, but we're just going to like look at what you're doing, all right? So you're coming down and you're going like this, right? You're pulling the weight down, all right? So you got your pull downs. Do you do any like things like this, pull down close? Sometimes. Well, each exercise you do is going to target different muscles a little bit differently. So the pull downs are working, you know, along top here and over here. And if you did like a close grip pull down like this to your chest, you'd actually be working, you know, down this area a little bit more. Okay. And then you have your rows. All right. So there's different rows you can do. You can do a cable machine row, that you're pulling like this, the long range row. You could do a dumbbell row where if you like kneel over a bench, and you kind of like this, and you take a dumbbell, do you do this one? No? You do that one? Okay. All right, so that's a row. Okay, then if you're working your legs, all right, if you're working your legs, you can do extensions. There's a table over there. So you do leg extensions that work your quadricep muscle right here in the front. And that's just this movement straight out. Okay. Now if you're working your hamstring muscle right here, then you do like curls. So that's doing this. Your legs just coming back. And then you have, movements where you're working both of those muscles, where you're going all the way down and coming all the way up. All right. Now, if you're doing like a leg press movement, you're pushing your leg out in front of you, or a squat, anything like that. There's certain things you want to watch as you do these exercises so that you don't hurt yourself. All right. If you're doing anything with your legs, you're on like a leg press, and you're pushing all this weight out in front of you. You would make sure that your knees weren't going out in front of your toes. Because you see the amount of stress that would go if I did this. So what you would do is you would, with each exercise, you want to watch how you do it. And you want to watch your form. Right? Your form, you watch your form as you do things. Okay? So a form on this one would make sure that your knee stays behind your toe. All right? Each exercise has certain things that you want to watch. That's just like precaution. So if you're doing like pull down behind your neck, are stressful on your shoulder, you might just do them in the front of you like this, like a chin-up. Okay, so then we said if you work your shoulders, right? You got presses, where you're pushing the weight up, and you might have little dumbbells in your hand and you're pushing the weight up like this. Then you take the weight, you go out to the side, you do it in the side of your shoulder, then you do it in the front of your shoulder, then the back of your shoulder. So you have presses and it's sort of lateral movements. Okay? If you're working your biceps, you're doing this, up and down. Okay? You do curls. Right? You can do those with dumbbells. You can do them with a barbell. You can grab a barbell and just curl up like this. Okay, you can do it with a cable, like that. Now if you're doing your triceps, okay, everybody know where your tricep is? Where's your tricep? Okay. Alright, now you have a muscle back here. It's in the back of your arm. Alright? Now, the way this thing looks, it looks like a horseshoe. It comes down the side, and it comes around the back. Alright? So you have different movements that work that muscle. Now you might see people, they got a cable or something, they're pushing the cable down like this. That works your triceps. Okay? As you do this, you can even feel the muscle working. Right? You want to concentrate, as you do each exercise, you want to concentrate and feel the muscle and concentrate on what you're doing. So you know why you're doing the exercise you're doing. All right? You can also work your triceps by pushing out like this. It's called a kickback. All right? Curls. That one still work your bicep because this movement is this muscle here. Okay? Yeah. What's that? Okay. Well, the tricep also, when you're doing all this pushback stuff, and down like this, and push back like that, it's kind of all this down stuff, right? That's working this side of the tricep right here. If you're pulling the weight up, like a row, straight up like this, well, that's going to work your back. If you go to the row. Alright? If you did like a close grip bench press, like as you're out like this is working your chest. But also, it's a compound exercise, and triceps are involved in it too. So you're pushing out like this, you're working your chest, your shoulders, and your triceps. Alright? Same thing with legs, like when you do that squat, you're using all your leg muscles. Okay? So there's compound exercises that take in a few of the muscles and not just isolate on one of them. Now the triceps also, when you push down like this, you see people with one dumbbell or something doing this thing behind their head. That works your part of your tricep that's down along the back. Alright, so for your tricep, you have like your push down stuff. You might see people when they go on, they get two chairs, they put chairs like this, and their feet are out in front of them, and they're pushing down like dips. Those are called. Those are with your triceps, a little bit of your chest. And then you have extension, over the head extension stuff. Okay, yeah.
I also use my, what's that thing called? Weights, like that.
For your forearm?
Yeah.
Okay. So you work your forearm, how?
Like, you have to like, use like your wrist.
So you use your wrist, right? But if you're curling up like this, that's working your forearm. And if you turn your wrist over and you curl back, that's working your forearms too. Alright? So the different movements that you make with your body work certain muscles. Okay? Is there any body parts I missed? Nothing. Okay, calves. Well, calves would be on toe raises, working your calves. So just like going up on your toes, or that's one way. When you're standing with your legs straight, you're working your calves like this. That's hitting like right along here. Now as you bend your leg, right, and you do like seated calf raises where you're sitting down, like this one over here, right? You got this one? You're sitting down, your legs bent, and you're doing your calves. That's working a lot like underneath part of your calf right here. That was this. Abs. How do you get big abs? Good abs. You do tons of sit-ups? How often do you do your abs? Every day, right? Everybody does them every day. Okay. Every other day. Every other day? 3 times a week? Okay. What's that? Every other day? Okay. Alright. Okay, well. Alright, well, the reason you want to look at why you're doing your abs, right? Is it to develop your abs, or is it to make your stomach smaller? Alright? Just to tighten them up, right? Okay? Well, what do you want to do when you do that, right? You want to develop the abs, right? Now, if you're developing your chest, you probably do your chest like every other day, or you might eventually get to the point where you do it like once a week, right? Like once a week you do your chest day. You have to. Alright, well, the reason you want to look at why you're doing your abs, right? Is it to develop your abs? What do you want to do when you do that, right? You want to develop the abs, right? Now, if you're developing your chest, you probably do your chest like every other day, or you might eventually get to the point where you do it like once a week, right? Like once a week you do your chest day. You have to? Do you do it? You don't have to. You can, yeah, anyway, right? Depends on how hard you work it for how much it needs to recover, too. Alright? Well, to get your stomach tight, too, you might have to drop body fat. Right? So that's going to take, how you're eating your diet and stuff, right? Okay? Every night? Every other night? Okay. Alright, now, as you train your muscles, right? You're doing these, like, curls or something like that, you do biceps, all that stuff. how hard you train that muscle is going to make it develop, right? And how good you eat. All right, same thing with your stomach. You're developing your stomach muscle. So he said before, like if you have like fat on you, and you want to develop your muscles, to see them really good, you got to take off the fat. All right, so that takes really taking a look at how many calories you're taking in, how many calories you're putting out, and where you want to be, you know, with your nutrition, how often you want your meals and which meals should be set up, whether or not you eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, maybe different things in between that, right? How active you are. All right, so if you want to see your stomach muscles really good, you don't have to do your abs every day. All right, because all you're going to try to do is develop those muscles underneath, and you're trying really is to lose the fat around them so that they show. All right, so now you have your different training. With the resistance training, you're building and developing muscle on your body. All right, now with proper nutrition, not really, you know, proper depending on what your goal is, where you want to be. All right, you're going to have to design that set, your nutrition into your cardio, your aerobic. All right. Like a lot of people will go and they'll join a gym and they'll just do like an aerobic class and think that, you know, that's going to do it. They're going to do this aerobic class and after a few months they're just going to have this body that they want. Well, you'd have to design your day to go along with your weight training and what your goal is. All right. You want to set it up so that you're not storing it. All right, you want to set it up so that you're gaining muscle, so that you're giving your body what it needs. It all depends on where you want to be, like what your goal is. Because if you're eating a certain way, and your lifestyle is a certain way, you're going to look a certain way. And when you decide that, you know, you're not happy with that, you want it to look a different way, first off, you start looking at what you're doing right now, and where you want to be. And then you start, you know, seeing like how the body works. Like if you only eat a couple of times a day, your body's going to think that it's starving for calories and food, so it's going to store more body fat. Now if you eat often, it's like a camel in the desert, right? It stores up all this water to get to the other side of the desert. But if there was like a stream at like every mile, it probably wouldn't need all that water, right? Now a lot of people think that if they have fat in their stomach, right? Your stomach's sticking out, and you want to lose this fat, they'll think, well, I just eat too much. But sometimes you're just not eating enough, and your body thinks it's starving, so it starts storing up fat. And wherever it goes, it's just wherever it goes. You know, you can't spot reduce the fat off your body, so they think, well, if my stomach's getting bigger, let me do 1,000,000 sit-ups a day, so it'll go down. You know, or they look, you know, they get the ab roller, and then they get that one, they crunch your stomach in, and then, you know, and then all the, you know, there's always new machines coming out all the time, and people are thinking that they can spot reduce your stomach off. You know, they start every night before you go to bed, they do like 1,000,000 crunches. Like, well, you know, you are going to burn some calories doing the crunches, but you're not going to spot reduce the fat off. And you're burning some extra calories is all you're doing though. It's not just hitting this area. You're working that muscle, so you might develop that muscle a little bit.
If you want to get bigger,
Yeah.
eat more and things like
Yeah, you would make sure the crunches or bottom.
like if you want to get bigger out,
Develop.
eat more and
Yeah, build them up like you would build your chest. If you want a big chest, just because you do push-ups every day doesn't make your chest really big. You know, it works the chest muscle, but it's not going to make it. You know, if you went and you were started benching, you know, 200 pounds on the bench press, your chest is going to get a lot bigger than if you did 200 push-ups. All right, so it's the amount of resistance that you're putting on that muscle and how long of time you give it to recover and how you eat to make it recover the best. Because you know, you're giving your body all these nutrients and stuff, the carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and your body's using those to help, you know, repair things, to help build it up, to give you energy to do that exercise. So how you eat these meals and where they are and how they are is you know, just as big of an effect as what the exercise is doing. Right? So it's both things that you want to take a look at. All right, so if you want great abs, you know, and you can start doing your abs just like you do your chest. You know, you start using a little bit of weight, you know, maybe a machine to do them, and then you give them a couple of days to recover, right? You know you're developing the muscle underneath, even when you do like a couple of sit-ups. But to drop the fat off of there, it's all going to come off your body. You know, you can't spot reduce it off, so, you know, it's not going to work. You kind of waste a lot of time. You can use that same amount of time to do an aerobic class or something, and you target heart range and burn some body fat that way. All right? So, for your stomach, basically, you know, the only things you can do for it, really, are crunch things, where you go down. All right? You see people doing the old-fashioned sit-ups where they bend their knees, and they go from the floor all the way up to their knees and then back down again. Well, that's a compound exercise, taking a lot of those muscles in there. And a lot of people get back pain from doing that. So but really all the muscles take for your abs is just a small crunch down. That works the upper part of the abs. And then as you raise your legs up too, this is working the lower abs. Alright? You might twist a little bit, might get it a little bit different. You know, but there's only so many movements you could do to train that one area. Okay? So, anybody have any questions on the routines? What do you play? You play football? What's that? Thinking about it? Okay. Well, a lot of times football, you know, what you would train for with football would be to get put on sides, right, and to get strength. So your routine, a lot of times, you know, a football routine is kind of like a powerlifter's routine, where you go through and you do so many sets, and you know your percentages of weight. So if you're doing like, you know, you're building up your chest, and you do like 80% one week, and next week you do 90%, and you try to like build up the strength and the inside. You eat a lot of food and stuff too.
Usually weight, I'm doing 50 weights, as long as that is 50, I'm on 60, 70,
Which one? Yeah. Do you do these over here? Okay. All right. And the benches and stuff? Okay. All right, well, you want to do some of this stuff here? Why don't you come over? What's your name? What's your name? Huh? What'd you say? Nacho? Nacho? Okay, I'll show you. We just use it. I'll show the stuff off. Okay. Everybody can stand up. You can, like, come over here and watch it.